In this video, I'm going to show you how to properly wrap your bow grip with grip tape so your hand doesn't slip either in adverse weather conditions or when your hands are sweaty. I'm going to show you two different methods on how to do it properly, meaning the right way, so you don't have to redo it later on and waste a roll of this stuff. And then that way you can shoot from a very stable grip platform. So yeah, just like I said there in the intro, I'm going to show you how to wrap your grip with some grip tape. And there's a few ways you got to do it in order to prevent issues from happening, like the tape rolling up, ripping, or slipping. Because the whole point of putting grip tape on your bow is to prevent your hand from slipping anyway. And if you don't put it on the right way, your hand may still slip. So there's two different methods, at least two different main ways to do it. There's one important principle that you must adhere to, and I'm going to show you the second and more difficult way to wrap the grip because the first way is very simple. Now what I've got here is Bowmar grip tape, which is claiming to be specifically designed for archers, specifically for archery. Normally what I would do is I'd go to any sporting goods store or Amazon or whatever, and I'd just buy tennis grip wrap for tennis rackets. You don't use the actual padded foam piece that cushions the grip for the tennis rackets. You just use the grippy sticky stuff, and I believe that's what this is here. It at least is probably very similar to it, and I will have some links in the description below for the tennis grip tape that I'd recommend just in case you're interested in that. You can also use baseball grip tape, meaning for a baseball bat. That also is very much so the same type of thing. So usually within that package of grip tape comes the actual grip tape itself and then some additional like pinstriping type tape. This one had some sort of extra double-sided tape that I don't think we'll need. At least we won't need it if we wrap the grips the way that I'm going to show you. The two different ways that you would want to wrap your grip are this. One is if you have a scenario like this where you have a very low wrist grip and you have a front of the riser that slopes similar to the angle that the grip is actually sloping. What you would want to do is just wrap the grip from the top down. When you wrap the grip from the top down, it essentially kind of tiles and stacks the grip tape in a particular way that when you put your hand into the grip, as you're pushing pressure into the grip, you know, this direction because the bow is wanting to push into your hand, due to the angle here, the hand will naturally want to slide up the grip, and it just is how it is. So if you have it where a leading edge of the piece of tape is on the bottom side of where the layer is that you just laid down, as your hand slips up, it will roll that edge up. So what you really just want is that lower edge of the tape itself to not be exposed. You want it to be covered by the next layer down. This grip is a lot harder to wrap because the angle of the wrist is much higher, plus the front of the riser doesn't really follow the shape of the actual angle. And in addition to that, if you have a good space like this down below like I do, it really will allow you to wrap it in the manner that I'm going to show you. So the two ways to actually wrap the tape is very similar. You start from the top and you start wrapping downwards. Now, when you're doing that, what you need to pay attention to is the actual throat of the grip. So this is the throat of the grip and this is the pressure point of the grip. You don't ever, especially in recurve, want to wrap the grip tape into the throat of the grip. There's two different reasons for that in my experience. One being, you don't really want to control the bow here anyway. You want to control it where you should be putting pressure into the grip. And so putting grip tape up there will allow you a little bit more ability to grab onto the bow there and torque it. And so if you don't even have grip tape up there, I think subconsciously it'll make you just use the pressure down here because you know that there's nothing there that you should be gripping. And then it helps actually make you grip the bow correctly anyhow. The second reason being is that there's a lot of movement going on in this area where the hand is pushing into the throat of the grip, and there's a lot of just weird forces that are happening in there. And because of that, again, those leading edges of where the grip tape is, and if you don't quite understand what those are, I'll show you once I get to it. Those weird forces that are exerted into the throat will cause the tape to roll and bunch and ultimately just become useless, and so you'll have to take it off, throw it out, and start over again. And I'm all about you guys not wasting any effort or resources, including money or materials, on stuff doing it the wrong way the first time like I did. That's why I'm making these videos, and why I enjoy producing them is because I'm helping out you guys to understand things better so it's done right the first time and it's not so frustrating, so costly and spendy, and then you can hopefully enjoy archery longer. So now I'll take this riser and I'm going to clamp it here in a bow vise, and the grip I'm actually wrapping on today is my I Am Recurve LPP, the lowered pivot point grip from Archery. If you're interested in checking out grips that I've designed that Archery is now making and carrying, I'll have links in the description below. And if you use code Kaminski at checkout, you'll get 10% off of any of their products, not just my grips. Okay, so like I said, start with the tapered side first, and you want to put the taper up in this fashion where you have the straight line continuing across the top. You don't want it the other way. It's a little bit confusing. You want to start this way and wrap that direction. Now there's two pieces and two parts to this actual grip. Besides the grip itself, the grip tape is a clear protective layer on top that kind of just keeps it nice and fresh and clean. And you can go ahead and just pull that out of the way and just get it gone because you don't need it there and it's going to do nothing but cause a problem. So just go ahead and pull that off and set it aside. And then what you want to do is use the double-sided tape remover here. And I guess this grip tape is actually slightly different because normally there's only a little double-sided area here and the rest has no adhesive to it. So it looks like Bomar Archery did actually a good thing here with this grip tape, if the adhesive lasts, of course. So you can go ahead and peel off some of it. I don't like to peel off all of it right away. But what you want to do is start right at the bottom of where the throat of the grip ends, which is right about here in that type of area. And you want to make sure that the tip of this, where it ends, is not in the center. You don't want to set it like this because then you have a weird bump there. You want to set it off to the side and kind of hide it so that way it sticks off out of the way. Now, what you want to do is try to figure out how you're going to actually wrap the grip. And what you're going to look to do is actually wrap this in a figure 8 cross type pattern. I'm going to put the double-sided tape back on just to illustrate to you for the first time so you can understand, because when you have the two different angles like I showed you here, and you start and you try to wrap flat across, now look, the tape is wanting to come out down here, and to get it to come and wrap around how the original instructions showed you, you then continue to get this kind of bunching going on up top. And you can see all these edges, and that's just not going to work. So what you got to do is you have to find a way that you're going to wrap it in a pattern that makes more sense. And that's in a figure 8 type pattern. So you can actually start like this, and then you will wrap down underneath the grip and then continue around. What's really different about this grip tape is it is much wider than most other grip tapes in my experience. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to modify this to the normal width that I'm used to using for tennis wraps and for baseball bats. And it's usually only this wide. It doesn't have this extra area down here normally. And so it's just too big and bulky for me to even wrap around the bottom like I'm supposed to do, or at least how I'm familiar and comfortable doing, at least know how to make it work. All right. Now this looks better. This looks like a much more appropriate width, at least what I'm used to seeing. And now you can see it will closely sit in this area down below with minimal amounts sticking out. Still maybe a little bit too wide because I don't shoot very high grips, meaning high risk grips to begin with. I shoot with them fairly low. So the higher risk grip you have, and when you don't have this kind of bump sticking out on a white riser, you'll have a lot more surface area to actually loop it down underneath. But I'm going to do my best to make it work with this grip here, and I'll show you now. Sometimes it takes some figuring to figure out what angle you start with, whether it be this way or this way. And you can do a couple dry runs without removing that adhesive on the actual tip of the grip tape, and you'll get an idea of the direction your first wrap needs to be. And so now I can see that it's going to work pretty decent this way, if I can get it to cooperate with this double-sided tape that is on it. Normally, like I said, it's not there, and you can get away with stretching the tape itself a lot to make it not stick up on edges. So the first bit that I saw that was going to work came from this kind of angle. So I'm going to put it on that angle. I've already started to remove the adhesive, so I'm going to start to stick it down. And what you really want to make sure is this top edge especially, but ideally both edges, as you go to pull them tight around the corners, you want to make sure you have tension in the areas that are very important. So like this area is going to be highly visible and exposed, and I want it tight so it stays down. I don't want it loose so it bunches up like that. So nice and tight, and as you go around with this tape in particular, remove the backing and start to wrap it in whatever pattern it tries to end up sitting in. And I can fudge it in the front and move it up higher. So as I wrap around, see how I'm missing the throat of the grip? But now as I come across the face, you'll see that if I pull tension on it and stretch it in that area so it's nice and tight there and still flat there, I can still manipulate this in a manner that I can wrap around here, and you'll see that it's bunching up here, but it's still flat over here. And as I come around, I can go for approximately a 50% overlap on the previous layer that went this direction. So you can see I'm approximately a 50% overlap there, and again, still nice and flat through here. What I really need to do is get this up higher to cover this area, because where I just had it like this, that 50% overlap, I had a exposed spot right here, and with pressure there, it'll roll that edge right there up on this section of tape that comes across. Yes, there's a little bump there, so ignore that. But what I'm trying to do is to cover not just 50% of this tape, but to also make sure that corner there is covered, so when I put my pressure in my hand and it wants to slip up, it doesn't roll that edge. This first wrap, sometimes you end up with a little bit more than a 50% overlap, and that's okay. But again, nice and flat, and now I've covered that edge. And as I continue to wrap downwards like this, what is going to continue to happen is you'll see it continue to tile downwards, making sure I'm covering this layer over here. Again, and making that edge come off nice and flat as best I can. Sometimes you might have to go through a hole in the riser, and that works out. Sometimes there's some flat holes in the bottoms of risers right below the grip, and then you can, loop your grip tape through it. I've done that in the past, and it might even be helpful in this type of riser because of this configuration here. It's kind of difficult to actually get it working correctly. So what I'll do is I'll show you that, and I'll tuck it through the riser. And now again, same thing. See how I just covered this edge here so there's no exposure. Now is the part where I'm almost ready to end it. I think I'm going to loop one more time underneath. And you can see how I kind of crossed to start, and then I ended up kind of using the hole in the riser here as more of a finishing guide, which is totally acceptable, and you can do it various different ways. Really just kind of let the grip itself dictate to you the direction it needs to wrap. And now I have a lot of excess tape here, and so I can cut it off. I can continue to wrap it around my bow in some way, shape, or form that is, I don't know, appealing or just works out in a manner that won't be in the way. But I'm going to choose to just cut it off and end it in the front of the riser. I'm putting it in the front of the riser because it's out of the way of my hand and I won't influence it or touch it, and I can't tear it. So I'll just cut it off. Meaning, don't let this tail end on the grip face or where you put your fingers and grab the bow heavily, because you may peel that tape off and roll the edge up. And so after you get to this point where the grip tape is on, you can then take your piece of fancy little stuff that they come with, and you can wrap it around the grip in some way, shape, or form that essentially will make sure it holds down that end tape loop. Usually the grips are much longer through this section than you need. Like on this Hoyt back here, it extends down. The reason it's not is because of the lowered pivot point. So normally you can wrap the grip tape finishing piece like this around it so it will actually look kind of finished. But instead I have to actually wrap it underneath the grip on the riser, which is still where the grip tape is. So it will be anchoring and holding things down nicely. It's just, not entirely finished, quote unquote. So if I make sure I hook it in the front where that leading edge is, and then come around underneath and somehow make it pretty looking. I don't use this back bushing anyway. So it is what it is. This is just made out of vinyl, so it stretches easily. And there you go. So from this position, now you can really see how these edges, the leading edge, the exposed edge, whatever you want to call it, the edge of the tape on the actual grip point where you put your pressure into the grip, you want that edge that's exposed to be on the top side of the tape. Because if I take my finger and if I push pressure this way, you can see how it's doing nothing but actually pushing the tape down and smoothing the edges out, right? Now, for effect, if I had pressure and it was coming down, watch what happens to the edges of these tape. See how it starts to roll up? That's why you have to start from the top and wrap down, because that would happen within the matter of a few shots, and then your grip tape's garbage and you have to remove it. Again, trying to make it nice and flat like I have it here is a great idea, and you really want it as flat as possible with as few of exposed edges as possible, covered from the top down. Do not cover into the throat of the grip, and then this is exactly how it should look when you're done. I really don't prefer this type of grip tape. What I actually prefer is skateboard decking. The reason I like to use skateboard decking is it's very small. It only covers the pressure point of the grip, and you can cut it into like an oval shape or something like that. And there is no give. Like this has a little bit of give to it because it is rubber, although I stretched it very, very thin and didn't do very many wraps, and I got rid of the excess. So I don't have a whole lot of padding here, but I find that this stuff does not last nearly as long as skateboard decking grip tape does, like this one does here on my grip that I've built for this Win and Win. And if you're interested in skateboard decking tape, I will have links in the description below and a card at the top up there for my website, jkaminski.com, where you can grab these grip tape pieces, or at least a piece of grip tape that you can cut to fit and put on your own riser exactly how you'd like it.